What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NYG Blue Zone. It's your boy Attikis. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so every time we drop some new content, you're one of the first ones to be notified. Also, don't forget you can find us anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Anywhere you are, you can find us. And don't forget to check us out on X because we drop a lot of content there as well. Everywhere we are, NYG Blue Zone. Today, we are absolutely going to talk a little bit about some of these head coaching moves, but I got a very special guest for you guys. I got my man, Chris. Chris and I go back like Cadillac seats. I mean, primarily we talk football. We've been to games. We just love to talk ball, period. But Chris is doing something really special, and I'm going to let him take over for a few minutes and let you guys know why I'm wearing this really stylish quarter zip today, and he is too. Chris, what's up, man? You want to talk to my people about this or what?
Yeah, hey, what's going on, man? I appreciate the warm intro there. By the way, looking lit with that on. I can't say if I didn't design it myself, I think that looks fire on you. I like it. Appreciate the representation.
Yes, sir.
Since we used to do a podcast together for a little bit, obviously we talked football, but since then I've actually been hired by a group called the Orlando Dreamers down here in Orlando, Florida. And it's our job. We're trying to bring a major league team, through expansion or through other means here to the Central Florida area. And so what you are wearing there is a emblem I designed that's just kind of like our letter for the time being. Hopefully it, evolves into something long term. But it's a little symbolic. Orange represents the Orange County where Orlando is. And then, if you kind of look at it, I kind of pulled some inspiration from Detroit's Old English D. I grew up, an Indians Guardians fan, so I'm used to seeing it. Kind of drew some inspiration from there, but it's kind of, if you look at it, it's got the O and the D for Orlando Dreamers. So even if I'm a dreamer, we call the Dreamers everyone that wants to bring the team here. But, ultimately it's going to be a fan vote that's going to determine the ultimate baseball team name when we get here. But, just kind of a harken back to, where you start from. It's what you get, it's kind of what I want to play with there. But like I said, I appreciate you rocking it. It looks way better on you than it does on me, that's for sure.
Nice. I love it. And I love the story behind the logo. I love the color and the reason why orange was selected. All of that makes perfect sense when you think about it. So a lot of people, including myself, I've never really been a baseball fan, only because there's so many games and I just get so busy that time of the year that I have never really gotten into it. But for those of us who don't know, what does it take to become a major league baseball team? You talked about, if not through expansion, then other means. Explain to our fans what you're talking about when you say that.
Sure. So obviously there's relocation where, just like in football, team can decide it doesn't want to be where it is and pack up and move. That's always an option. It's obviously not the one we want to pursue. We don't want to upset another fan base or whatever if a team wants to come here. But at the same time, we're not going to turn it down if they do. The goal right now is the expansion. That is the main push. Robert Mansford, who's the MLB commissioner, has come out and said that they want to expand by 2 teams, by the, I believe, 2030 season. He wants to announce it by, I think, like 2028, 2029, and then have them start 2030. We expect one of the slots to go to a team out west because they kind of want to keep everything balanced. So I know Salt Lake and Portland are kind of the 2 out west we keep hearing. And then here in the East, it's us, Charlotte, and Nashville are the 3 big names that kind of keep coming up over and over again. So, I'm a little biased. I think Orlando's the best spot for it. But, that's kind of what we're up against right now. So we're trying to do a grassroots thing. The pullovers are, we're going to be selling merchandise, stuff like that, just to kind of get the community behind it. Just as a little bit like next weekend, we're going to be out at the Miracle League, here in Orlando. With I like to call them my coworkers, but Johnny Damon, who won World Series with the Yankees and the Red Sox, Barry Larkin, who's a Hall of Famer, played a long time for Cincinnati Reds.
Nice.
They're part of our organization. I like to call them my coworkers, whether they consider me a coworker or not, as TBD on that. But so I'm actually in charge of designing different aspects. So we're coming out with fan packs. I've designed all the merchandise in the fan packs. I've had some help with the logos. This is like a primary logo that we had prior to me joining, but like you're wearing something I've come up with, and we're just trying to get something the fans can unify behind and really show the MLB that we're a good spot and we can be the next great MLB city.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like it's very exciting to be a part of this process from the grassroots, from the birth and the inception of it all. And the competition, I mean, there are 5 teams vying for 2 potential spots for expansion teams. And I know personally you've got a bit of experience with that. For those who don't know, Chris is a lifelong Browns fans. And one day, in the middle of the night, the Browns left Cleveland, and it wasn't fun for the fans, but it
No.
was really fun for those that received them. So Cleveland is actually considered an expansion team, even though prior to them leaving, they had a lot of different world championships. So you've got some experience with that as a fan. So I wanted to ask you, if the MLB decides to go with 2 other cities and one of them is not Orlando, where does that leave your efforts, the team owners, and what you guys hope to accomplish there?
Sure. So if the original 2 spots, if we were to not get those, and like I said, we're pretty sure one of the spots is going to go out west somewhere. So really, it's like 3. Montreal's also kind of in the mix, but just for different reasons. I'm not sure if Canada is going to get another team. That we can go into that if you want, but I'll just say that for now.
Canada may not want to because of other reasons.
For other reasons, sure. But yeah, so it's really the one Eastern spot I look at between us and the other team. Should we not get it, we can go into the merits of why each city and why I think Orlando's better than if you want. But should we not get it, like I said, a relocation is a possibility. The Tampa Bay Rays are kind of in. They're kind of in flux right now. There's some different things going on, and there's a lot of commotion coming out of there that they might move to Orlando if they can't get the stadium deal done in Tampa. We kind of feel a little bit like we're being used for leverage, maybe more than like an actual threat, as teams always kind of say, well, if you don't, I think the Bears did just something like this, saying, hey, if we don't get what we want, Gary, Indiana's right across the border, or whatever it is exactly they pointed out. So, it's a little bit of that, but there's about four teams or so around the country that have different reasons why they might be sold within the next couple of years. So that's option B. But obviously, we'd rather not ruffle any feathers and just get an expansion team. There's also some talk that they might actually go with 4 teams. And if they go to 4 teams and 2 are in the East, we really feel like, we are deserving of one of those 2 slots. But again, a lot of this is just kind of like hearsay and bits and pieces and rumors. You just kind of got to wade through like anything else.
Yeah. Sounds like Orlando would be a great landing spot either way. This would make, I guess, the Florida Mariners and then the Tampa Bay Rays. This would be the 3rd team in the Sunshine State. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah. And, one of the biggest things we always get is there's already 2 teams, in Florida, and both of them don't draw as well as like other teams nationally do. We think there are some different reasons for that. One is their stadium locations, not for both teams right now. I don't really know how to explain the Tampa Bay situation. Others say that their team is in St. Petersburg, which, I'm a Cleveland guy. If you have anyone that's familiar with Cleveland, like I was on the east side and then there's the west side. And even though it's not that far away, if you're on the east side, you typically stay on the east side. Kind of the same thing with Tampa and St. Pete. If you're on one side of the bridge, you kind of tend to stay over there. So getting fans all the way out to St. Petersburg is one of the issues that they tend to have. It's why they're looking to move their stadium over to the Tampa side, because that's where the majority of their fans are. World Series in New York or Boston within a couple of years. I mean, I brought up Johnny Damon. He actually grew up here in Orlando. He played at Dr. Phillips High School, which is maybe 20 minutes from where I live. And he actually played on the Rays for a while and then went and won his World Series with Boston. So, it's kind of those. So there's a bunch of factors that kind of go into why Florida teams maybe have that perception of not drawing as well. But, some of the things our owners have come out and said is, hey, we will commit to putting a winning team on the field as far as like monetarily speaking. We won't be We
Nice.
won't lose players because we're like not paying them enough is the basic
Not
takeaway
afraid to
there.
spend the money.
Yeah, not afraid to spend the money. That's the perfect way to put it. So, we're looking at different things. And then the other, as far as Florida being able to support a third team, Florida actually has 10 million people more in it now than when California got their team. So, people, I think, underestimate how big of a city Orlando is. We're the 15th largest media market. We're the largest in America without a competing NFL team. So there's just a lot of things that make Orlando, I believe, an attractive option for the MLB. So that's kind of what we're trying to play up more than anything else.
Well, one thing's for sure, we know that Florida knows how to draw large crowds. Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, he is not afraid to spend money, and he has done so. And he makes sure that they have premier facilities. Their stadium is brand new. They pay their coaches very well. Then you've got basketball. And let me not leave out the Jaguars, who was a very small market, probably still is a small market, but that team has been turned around in a way where they're making huge draws now. So I don't know how much money the owner is spending, but they've built a pretty big winning team, and people love their sports in Florida. Miami Hurricanes. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to be attracted to Florida sports. It's not just Disneyland and SeaWorld that a lot of people think of. It typically when it comes to Orlando. So it'd be really cool for the Dreamers to become that expansion team that you're hoping that they become. And then
Definitely.
I don't want to leave out the NBA either, because you've got the Orlando Magic, and I'm sure that they draw huge crowds. They're playing exceptionally well this year as well. And then the Miami Heat, they've brought a few championships to Florida. So Florida is a good destination for sports. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm really rooting for you guys.
I appreciate it. And thank you for bringing up the Magic. One of the thing about them is, the Orlando Magic, believe it or not, historically are a top 12 franchise in terms of people showing up to see the games. Now we can argue whether they're all Magic fans or whether some of it's transient people coming to see their teams. But the
Sure.
fact remains, the average attendance to their games, they're one of the top. I want to say they may even be top 10. I want to say I saw top 12. I'm not 100% sure, but they're in the top half of the league either way. The
They
other
are.
major league team we have is Orlando City Soccer, which is in the MLS. And again, they have a dedicated supporter group, and they have one of the larger consistent crowds showing up to home games. They were I want to say, fourth or fifth team to have a dedicated MLS stadium specifically to them. And that kind of brings me back to, again, one of the other advantages Orlando has is we wouldn't have any teams really competing with, like, all summer. That would be baseball. That we don't have an NFL team
Right.
that'll come in that we're competing against. Not that I have anything against the NFL. I love the NFL, obviously. My wall's painted browns orange, but we don't have that competition here. So the MLB could be front and center for like 6 months out of the year. Again, another attractive reason why the MLB should want to be here.
Yeah. A lot of good reasons to come there. So I hope it all works out. I would absolutely be remiss if you talked about the Browns a little bit. Naturally, that was going to come up in our discussion.
Sure,
But the
sure.
Browns right now, let's just say the AFC North, I think it's in flux in a way that we have never seen before. Three head coaching vacancies. I would dare say that Joe Burrow is extremely frustrated being in Cincinnati as well. Stefanski's out. I think the Browns are one of the few teams, the last team in the AFC North that doesn't have a head coach. It just came out today that Mike McCarthy is going to assume the head coaching position for the Steelers. And then
Reuniting him with
Jesse Minter. I'm sorry.
reuniting him with I said Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, which I don't know how that
Oh
they're
my
trying to get Aaron
God.
Rodgers back. That was my first thought. Is like, oh, they realize they're trying to get Aaron Rodgers back too. I don't think there's a lot of love lost there. Obviously, my wife, the Packers fan, might have more of an opinion on that than I do, but I find that very interesting, if nothing else.
Yeah, I just think it's an extension of what they already had and moved away from. So I don't understand that hire at all. But I thought Jesse Minter would have ended up with the Steelers, either Marcus Freeman, Jesse Minter, or even like Chris Shula for the Steelers job. But as a Cleveland Browns fan, who would you like to see come in to be the next head coach?
So I'm torn. Part of it, I think Schwartz, the defensive coordinator, he's got previous head coaching experience, and he's got, say what you want about the Browns as an entire team. our defense has been pretty solid like the last few years. We were the number one defense in 2023, and we've been, one of the top units. Although the scoreboard doesn't always show it, we have been one of the top units over the last couple of years. It's more offense putting our defense in horrible positions than anything else. Really quick, I just kind of want to touch on your take on the Ravens and the Steelers there really quick. I think the Ravens got their pick of the litter because they have a more settled quarterback position. Steelers
They
are
do.
kind of in
Absolutely.
flux. Obviously the Browns are in flux. If you would have told me going into this season that there were going to be 3 coaches fired from the AFC North and Cincinnati was going to be the team that kept their coach, I don't know if I would have believed you.
Right.
But getting back to your Schwartz, I'm really on, and I apologize, I probably should look up his name before I try and say it, but the offensive coordinator out of Jacksonville. That offense, and just as a little thing, I had some of their players on my fantasy team, and they were the driving force. Travis Etienne was a beast last year, and
yeah,
I would like to see him. And I think for a new head coach, a coordinator stepping up, it could, especially if Schwartz stays, it could be Schwartz. You got your defense, which, by the way, who should be the NFL MVP. I don't care that he's on defense for a losing team. You break a sack record, you're an immovable object. You're doing things like 5 sacks in a game. You deserve to be in the MVP discussion, just not Defensive Player of the Year. We also have the Defensive Rookie Player of the Year. And even though there are a lot of parts about our team that, obviously the record wasn't great, the QB situation's odd. I'll like that. That's probably the nicest thing I can say about it. We had our tight end Fannin set, I believe it was a rookie record for most receptions, either in general or just caught by a tight end, most yards, most touchdowns by a rookie tight end. There are some pieces there. Judkins and Sampson are 2 young running backs. Judkins did get hurt toward the end of the year, but
you guys need receivers, though.
Yeah,
I mean, Jerry Jeudy can't be your premier receiver.
I don't want Jerry
Cleveland.
Jeudy on the team after this past year, if I'm being completely honest with you. I would not be upset if I don't know where we'd flip him to, but if we could get rid of him, I wouldn't be upset about it. But
sure.
Yeah.
Lots of discussions that can be had, if I can.
Sure.
I look at, you talked about the most attractive landing spot in the North for a head coach being the Baltimore Ravens, and 100%. How could it not be, right? You've got your franchise quarterback. They have a decent defense. They've got a good tight end room at a minimum. Mm-hmm. Their running back room is still really good. Overall, it's a team that needs the least amount of work and the least amount of pieces, right? So they're pretty much set up to at least be competing for the playoffs. So you could see how that was an attractive landing spot for Jesse Mentor, and that was an easy one. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I alluded to a little bit, their quarterback situation has been absolutely atrocious since Ben Roethlisberger. They have not presented the coaching staff with any usable talent that was capable of making a deep run in the playoffs. The best opportunity that they probably had was Mitchell Trubisky, which they moved on from, and he's been riding the pine behind Josh Allen up in Buffalo ever since, who, by the way, their head coach was fired also, Sean McDermott, which might not be a bad landing spot for him to come to Pittsburgh at this point. But again, there's no coordinator there. Now that they got Mike McCarthy, I thought Sean McDermott might be the person that they would look at because he's a little younger. But why would you want to go there? What coach wants to go there because of their quarterback situation? Then you talked about your quarterback situation, which is just so freaking mind-boggling, perplexing. I mean, I still can't understand how. First of all, Deshaun Watson is still there. A lot of people don't even realize it. He's still there, right?
Yeah, he's doing something.
He's doing something, but I got to tell you, I thought about you a lot, Chris, this season with the quarterback situation in Cleveland, because I thought that as good of an offensive mind as Kevin Stefanski is, I mean, he did wonders when he was in Minnesota. He did good stuff while he had Baker Mayfield there. He won Coach of the Year 2 times. And in the last couple of years, he's won 8 games. 8 games. He has not. I honestly believe that there are some coaches, and you talked a lot about Jim Schwartz. Your defense has been formidable. And you're right. If Myles Garrett somehow is not the NFL MVP this year, I don't know. There needs to be an investigation because he was just an immovable force. He did whatever he wanted to do on the field. But I got to tell you, man, I don't think Jim Schwartz should be your head coach because I just think he is too good as a DC. I would also say that Kevin Stefanski is not a good head coach, but he's a really good OC. And now the Atlanta Falcons took a flyer on him because they believe he's going to be the guy. He was your head coach for a while. With all the talent that they have in Atlanta, do you think, this is a two-part question, you really think that Jim Schwartz is a better head coach than DC? And do you think Kevin Stefanski was the right guy to go into Atlanta with all that talent? Or is it going to be more of the same for him?
Sure. So I'll tackle Jim Schwartz first and then go to Kevin Stefanski. So Schwartz, I think he's a stabilizing presence is what I think. His head coaching record, I think, is overall losing. I don't have the stats in front of me. I want to say he's something like, somewhere 30s versus 40s in losses. I'll say 36 and 49 or something along those lines.
But he's a defensive Brian Daboll.
Yeah, he's a defensive guru, which we can sit here and argue about whether you want an offensive head coach or a defensive head. I mean, that kind of comes down to split hairs. He's done a great job with the defense. I think he could be a stabilizing force. I'm still high on Grant, whatever his name is, out of Jacksonville as the head coach. Yeah, I think the Browns are just, we need to take a swing. You take a swing and you hope for the best. And I mean, for as much as people clown on the Browns, the one thing we can say is, hey, if we hire him and he flames out and nothing comes from it, we're the Browns. It's like it's reputational harm we're worried about at this point, So, why not swing big? Especially because my understanding from how the conversations are going, they've asked Schwartz so much as, hey, if we do go a different route, do you want to stay as the defensive coordinator? And honestly, if I'm a 30-year-old offensive coordinator at the Jaguars and I have a chance to come in with a guy who's basically already got the defense set and all I need to worry about, and even on our offense, I think a good draft for the offensive line, because our offensive line, we're only 2 or 3 years removed from our offensive line being a top 5 unit in the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
And we need a couple receivers. That's obvious. I like Shador. I think probably more than most people do. I see flashes. I think he was inserted into a really hard spot and, was able to thrive at moments. Definitely saw
he made
flashes.
the most of his opportunities.
Exactly. He stepped in and acted out as mature. And I tend to ignore a lot of stuff that happens off the field as long as it's not illegal. I don't really care what side hustles he's got as long as he comes in and looks prepared on Sundays. That's all I can really ask of my quarterback. I don't spend all my time.
If the side hustle has something to do with ESPN bets, we got a problem with that one.
Sure. Yeah. That being said, to get to Stefanski. So Stefanski's a good coach. I'm not going to deny what he did in Cleveland. He came in, we won a playoff game in Pittsburgh, we don't win in Pittsburgh, period, let alone make the playoffs and win a playoff game. Won NFL MVP twice, or I'm sorry, not NFL, Coach of the Year twice, one of which he had to start 5 different quarterbacks and basically, made Joe Flacco a household name in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places. That's not easy to do. What I would caution in Atlanta, my experience with Stefanski is he needs a veteran quarterback with a strong arm, which is something I don't know. I don't know if Kirk Cousins, although they have worked together in the past, I don't know if I think Stefanski will get the most out of what's left of Kirk Cousins. I don't know if Kirk Cousins or any quarterback on their roster right now is what Stefanski needs or wants going, long term. So if I'm Michael Penix right now,
sure. Yeah.
little errors that just never seem to go away, illegal formations, illegal shifts, just a lot of shoot yourself in the foot kind of errors that are known to kill drives. That kind of stuff just never seem to get fixed. And there's a lot of, and it'll be interesting to see because we're going to finally see if it's like the GM and Barry that does it or if it was Stefanski. But there just seems to be this cloud of almost undue secrecy. And maybe that happens at all teams. And I just don't realize it because I follow the Browns more than anyone else. But it just always felt like we never really got an answer or nothing really ever seemed to change. It was either the plan worked and it was great or it didn't and there was no adjustment. That's how it always seemed to go. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, what I will say that Stefanski has going in his favor is Atlanta's defense is unbelievable. They've got two rookies on that team that are playing their asses off. Jeff Ulbrich has that whole squad playing very good defense. So that's a good stabilizing quality that that team has where he can really focus on his offense. And I think that that's what makes Cleveland a little more attractive for a head coach to come in is they know if they can convince Jim Schwartz to remain as the DC and that defense continues to play as well as they've been playing. Hold on one second. I got somebody showing up at my door. And that defense continues to play as well as they've been playing. I think that, and then the head coach is excited to pair themselves with Shador, who I'm high on also. And I think he can be a very good quarterback for you guys for a long time. If they can get somebody in there, and I'm thinking somebody like maybe a Cliff Kingsbury, what would you say about that? Or maybe a Sean McDermott even. How do you feel about those two guys?
Sean McDermott, so I like what he's done. He obviously took the Bills who, it's hard to remember now because we're talking about 10 years ago, but the Bills weren't much better. They have a history akin to the Browns. Now,
Right.
I think their history gets kind of, warped a little bit because the Patriots were so dominant for so long. Some of it gets tied up in that. But he came in and he righted a program. My only thing is
That
I want an
struggled for
offensive guy.
years.
That struggled for years. My only thing is I personally want an offensive guy. I think our defense is
Right.
set. I don't know if McDermott is the offensive guy that I want in there. I think it's like a lot. It's like if you bring in McDermott, why do you keep Schwartz? That's kind of
Right.
where I feel about that. If I'm Schwartz, do I want to coach with like another defensive coach? What's the point in that? So that's why I'm higher on the Jacksonville OC or I've
Seattle's
heard
offense.
there's another LaFleur out there, not the Packers coach, but there's another offensive coordinator. His brother is on the Rams. I just heard from the other room, so so he's
You
another
heard
guy
from the
that
other room.
I heard from
That's
the
the
other
good thing
room.
about having a wife who loves sports just as much as you, right?
She fact checks me when I need it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
but not to completely change the subject, but I kind of want to get your opinion. Speaking of the Cleveland Browns, you hired a Ohio native, longtime Cleveland Browns fan, John Harbaugh, to, if we're talking about coaches I wanted,
Right.
how are you feeling about that? Where do you think it goes? How do you think that first meeting with Cam Scadaboo went for him?
I think that the first meeting with Scadaboo was interesting, but it was because of my call to John. I said, John, you got to come to New York. No, I'm kidding. Hey, listen, if I'm keeping it 100, John Harbaugh was my 1B. My 1A was Mike Tomlin. Very happy with the hire. I think that, like I said, Tomlin probably walked away because he's just frustrating with aging players and not getting the quarterback help he needs. But I did a podcast back in, I think it was during week 8 when things started to unravel as they usually do around week 8 for the Giants. And I said, if the Giants had an opportunity, because it became clear to me that they were going to release Brian Daboll in the middle of the season, which is something that the Giants traditionally don't do. They just try to operate from a different place that garners a certain level of respect, which just doesn't permit them. I mean, they kept Joe Judge until the end of the season, who definitely deserved to be fired mid-season. But I did a podcast, and one of the people I talked about as a potential head coach for the Giants was John Harbaugh. And I went in depth as to the reasons why I thought he would be the perfect person to right the ship in New York. At that time, it became apparent by everybody's standard that Jackson Dart was for real. He was the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants. The Giants have a really good running back room. They've got good tight ends. They've got a defense that just seems a little disheveled. And if you got the right person calling the plays, you can really get the most out of the talent. The right receiving room needed a little bit of help, but you could see that there were a lot of pieces in place. Huh?
I was saying Neighbors also got hurt, which
Neighbors got hurt week 4. I mean, in the middle of his. Yeah, I mean, there are just so many reasons for it to be attractive. But I thought, wow, we need a guy like a John Harbaugh. But he had just signed a contract extension a year before. So he was on contract for a couple of years. And I said, yeah, but that's a pipe dream, y'all. Don't even think about it. We're not getting a Harbaugh. And when he became available, first of all, have you ever seen so many head coaching vacancies in one season? Have you ever seen so many qualified candidates to either go from one team as a head coach to another, or to be qualified to go from OC to HC in a single season, or DC to HC in a single? It's just, you've never seen anything quite like this. And this is usually one of those head coaching cycles that the Giants miss out on. And given that I am a good battered fan, right? I felt like if anybody can fuck this up, it's going to be the Giants. They're not going to get their guy, right? They're going to end up with somebody like a Jonathan Gannon and be excited about him to coach their team. And somehow they were able to land John Harbaugh. And I will say this to you, I have tempered expectations. I'm very reserved, but at the same time, they paid him $100 million. They have expectations at the same time,
Sure.
right? But I think that if there is anybody out of all of the coaches that became available this year, he was at the top of the list, that any team with the opportunity outside of the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, who would have hired a head coach, wanted that guy. So when the Giants did everything they needed to do to make New York the most attractive landing spot, and I don't think it was that hard. They just had to show that they were willing to give him what he wanted, which is what the Giants capitulated to ultimately to get him there, as opposed to all the pieces being in place, because the pieces are there. So they just need to put enough sweetener in his coffee, and I think that they did that well. So me as a fan, super excited. I think the Giants can literally be playing meaningful games in October and November next year, and maybe even knocking on the door of the playoffs. They still need help. They still need secondary help. They still need wide receiver help. I would dare say that they still need to do something with the inside linebacker position. But by and large, if you had a guy who's the right guy for the job, he is it. And he fired a bunch of coaches yesterday. He got two coaches. And one of the ones that he should have kept, that I think he should have kept, is Carmen Bracillo, the offensive line coach, because the Giants finally have a fully functioning offensive line. But I'm encouraged, man. I feel really good.
Well, being someone on the outside the NFC East, for as much as I rag on the division, NFC East and all that,
we deserve it, by the way.
Well, I think the biggest thing working against the Giants, honestly, right now is it's a very competitive division. That's the biggest problem for the Giants more than anything, in my opinion. I mean, you got the Eagles, who they didn't make it this year, but they're going to be a perennial Super Bowl favorite next year. You got the Cowboys. Say what you want about them, they're feisty if nothing else. Yeah, 8-8, still 8-8. That's better than a lot of teams, that can, year in and year out. And then Washington, their quarterback got injured. We'll see how they rebound from that, but they're an interesting team to follow. And you guys got Dart. I mean, I think the biggest thing working against the Giants, and the hardest thing from here going forward for you guys, is just the division you played in. Like, if you were in the NFC South, you guys would be. I would already have you penciled in for making the playoffs, right? Like, so part of it's just luck of where you're at, and I think that's the biggest thing. At least what I've seen from the Giants for the last couple of years. You guys are just in a tough division. You guys all play each other hard, and you see it every year. At the end of the year, there's a team needs to win a game, and they go to New York and they lose, or New York goes to Washington and they lose. Like, it's just what happens in that division every year. And I think that's the hardest thing going forward. And I think John Harbaugh, with his experience coming from the North, which a lot of times we're that same way, it wasn't it was 2 years ago when we had 3 teams make the playoffs, and Cincinnati, who didn't, still had a winning record. That's what the situation that he's coming from. So I think, the second you hired him, you're in a better position to deal with all of that than you were prior to him being there.
Yeah. I mean, another reason why Kevin Stefanski went to the NFC South is such a mediocre division. His chances of going to the playoffs year one are pretty high, particularly with his team compared to the other teams in that division. So, all right. So, we talk a lot about the Orlando Dreamers. I'm real excited about it. It is my new baseball team. Honestly, I've never had one. I never really cared that much, but my man Chris, you're the marketing director for that team. Is that right?
I'm the head marketing manager. I do have Andy above me is the marketing. I would consider him the marketing director, but I plan a lot of the activities and stuff we're doing.
Well, the way that you've marketed thus far, you've made me a believer. So I'm rooting for the Dreamers to be that one of the two expansion teams and hey, I know the Midwest is attractive, but maybe they will pick two out of the East. We'll see how that all pans out, but I'm on board. I'm going to rock out with these guys, and hopefully we'll see them playing some Major League Baseball pretty soon. But is there anything else that you want to pitch or let everybody know that's tuned into us today?
Sure. If you're listening and you just kind of want to find out what we're all about, our website is being updated. It's still our old website. Definitely check back, but www.orlandodreamers.com or orlandoondeck.com, both of which will get you to the same place. We're about to start launching merchandise. We got different people speaking to different podcasters around the country, so you get a bunch of information and clips about who we are. So yeah, definitely reach out, get on our mailing list, find out what we're about, and just living the dream down here in Orlando, man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Chris. I really appreciate you carving some time out of your schedule to share that information with the viewers of our channel here. And good luck with the head coaching search. Is there anybody, I'll ask this last question before I let you go. Is there anybody that you have your eyes on? I know you like Grant Udinski as your HC. If you don't get him, anybody else you liking?
Tomlin, why not? Let's do it.
He's not coming back, though.
So I know Cleveland's got a rep. I don't think it's as bad as a spot. We've been cursed at the quarterback position, which has been our biggest thing, but there are a lot of good things. I like LaFleur. There's a couple guys on the, I guess we could always follow back on the anyone who's had a beer in the last 5 years with Sean McVay. At this point, let's get someone in there that's offensive minded and go. But I really think this Grant kid has the gumption to do it. Why not? Swing for the fences. We saw what he did in Jacksonville. Get him a receiver and an offensive line. And let's see what we got. Because we have pieces. They're just kind of strewn about all over the place and need some organization. So
I'll tell you what, man, if you get the right guy, we've seen it this past year, that you bring in the right coach, you can go deep into the playoffs with the team that you already have. So, good luck to you guys in the AFC North. That whole division is, I don't know, it's up for grabs. I think it's Baltimore's division at this point, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see how the whole coaching carousel continues to shake out. So,
yeah.
Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to say something else?
The one last thing. It's real interesting to me. A couple of years ago, I threw out it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Baltimore. I forget their kicker's name, but they had that kicker that was like automatic from Tucker, yeah, 50 yard, like 55 plus yards out. He hit that 60 some odd yarder versus Detroit a couple of years ago. And Tomlin, who just, no matter what you throw at the dude, he was going to go 10-7 at least. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two franchises, which has been the stalwarts of our division for a while, rebound. I truly think more than ever it's up for grabs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's a show. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I'm going to also drop content or the details of how you can become a fan of the Orlando Dreamers and show your support, purchase merchandise from them down in the details in the description. And thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you again real soon. Go Big Blue.
Yeah, a lot of girls probably crying from my old high school. Look, they see me everywhere they go, I probably would too. Look, crossed over to the Jordan man like I'm Michael. Yeah, eating blessings so much I might need lipo. Yeah, tailored for the doves like I'm walking in chucks. Yeah, it's just in this plan, man, I see how y'all shook. Look, knew that I was great ever since I was a rook. Man, all y'all singles making me look good. Okay, praise to the Most High, yeah, that's Jesus. Look, but when it come to this rap thing, I can't lose. Yeah, back-to-back number ones, that's the thing greats do. Yeah, tell them boys that ain't nothing I can't do. It's my year. It's my year. Look,